All right, welcome to Talking Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I'm going to do my Bitcoin and Bitcoin miner update. This is a weekly edition, but more importantly, special edition. This is a year-end edition. So the year 2023 is over. We're going to take a look at what the Bitcoin miners did for the entire year versus what Bitcoin did. We're also, of course, going to look at what happened this week. We're going to take a look at an 11-week period, a 24-week period, and then again, we're going to do our year-to-date, the final one for the year 2023, and I have a new chart that we're going to start looking at. Starting now, we're going to focus on in 2024, so that's something new that'll come later in the video. So if you're new to the channel, we're shooting for 500 likes on this video. If you could smash the like button, it really helps the video out a lot. I appreciate all those who have been doing so. Also, if you're new to the channel or if you've been here before and you have not yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. We recently just hit 16,000 subscribers, so thank you very much to all of those who have subscribed. I'm going to start out by taking a look at the Bitcoin miner big board for Friday, because Friday, which was the last trading day of the year, December 29th, it was not a good day. The Bitcoin miners, with really only two exceptions, were almost all double digits in the red. So it was one of the big down days. However, we have been on an absolute tear. We've been talking on this channel a lot about the fact that we are due for a pullback. So, I don't know how much more of this is to come, but it is worth taking a look at Friday. So, very quickly, this is the big board for Friday. I'm just going to call out a few of these. There were some gigantic moves to the downside. BitDeer was down over 25%. TeraWolf was down 20.5%. Stronghold down 25%. Then we had a bunch in the down 16 or 17% range. Marathon, which is the largest by market cap, was down over 16%. BitDigital was down just under 17%. So I'll let you take a look at the board and find your Bitcoin miner or miners, but other than DigiHost, which was up 5%, and then Any, which is Sphere 3D, was basically flat. It was up about 0.5%. Those two were in the green. Otherwise, everything else was pretty much deeply in the red. Okay, now that we took a look at what happened on Friday, let's put that in context with what happened for the week. Okay, so you see, this is the final week of the year, and you're going to see, even with that awful day where basically all but two Bitcoin miners had double-digit down days, still half of the Bitcoin miners were in the green this week. If we take a look at the top of this list, you're going to see Mawson was up 39% on the week. DigiHost was up 27% on the week. Any was up 13%, Core Scientific was up 13%, Gree was up 13%. Now, one thing I'll say about all those stocks, those are all the microcap and nanocap stocks other than Core Scientific. So those tended to outperform. But then you have TeraWolf, which was up 12%. So that is a larger market cap stock. They're about a $500 million market cap stock at this point. Even after the big pullback on Friday, they were still green on the week, up 12%. BitDigital up 8%. Argo Blockchain up 8%, and Cypher up 2%, rounded out the week. And you're going to see this is a week, you'll see in gold, Bitcoin was down 4% this week. So Bitcoin is now about 3.5 weeks trading between about 41,000 and 44,000. So we are getting some consolidation. This could be a good thing for Bitcoin. Then you're going to see a bunch of the Bitcoin miners that did have a red week. Some of the standouts you're going to see down near the bottom of the list, Marathon and Riot. Marathon down 12%, Riot down 13%. Those are the two largest Bitcoin miners by market cap. So they had a tough week. CleanSpark is the third largest Bitcoin miner by market cap. They had a tough week, down 7%. Hut was down 10%, Hive down 11%. So you can see there were some of these that had a tough week. But the next chart that we're going to take a look at is over the last 11 weeks. And Bitcoin has been on a big run for the last 11 weeks. And even with a lot of these Bitcoin miners that had a tough final week of the year, you're going to see inside of the last 11-week period, this has been a spectacular run. Okay, so this is the last 11 weeks for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. You're going to see the first thing that should jump out at you is this entire chart is green, and there are some very, very big numbers on this chart. This would be one of the best industries in the entire stock market if this was the year, but this was only the last 11 weeks. We'll get to the year later. So you see, Bitcoin finished out strong the last 11 weeks of the year, up 57%. Almost every single Bitcoin miner beat that performance. Hut just missed, up 56%. Hut did have that merger of equals that affected their stock price for a short period of time, but even they've rallied inside of that period, up 56%, Hive up 58%. So those are some of the laggers. Let's talk about the other side of this chart. Mawson is up 408% in that period. Argo Blockchain 263%. Again, those are two of the smaller micro cap stocks. However, CleanSpark is the third largest by market cap. they're up 213% in this 11 weeks. Bitfarms is up 207% in this 11 weeks. Marathon, which is the largest by market cap, up 205% in the final 11 weeks of the year. So you can see some very, very good performance. All of those are more than a 3x leverage to the upside on Bitcoin. That is what I look for in the Bitcoin miners over the course of time. A lot of them are starting to perform that way. These should be leverage plays both to the upside and the downside. We felt that in the crypto winter. These were brutal in the year 2022. 2023 has been a different story entirely. And these last 11 weeks, you're going to see most of these are a 2 or 3x leverage or more on Bitcoin in this window of time. One thing worth pointing out is you're going to see Marathon here at 205%. And then you have to go all the way down very near the bottom of the list to Riot, which is its closest competitor. Riot is only up 69% in this 11 weeks. So for most of the year, Riot was the largest Bitcoin miner by market cap. Marathon passed it near the end of the year, and it's now substantially passed based on the performance of the last several weeks, really the last month. So you can see that in this chart. There's a big discrepancy there. There's several other miners that, aren't even a 1.5x leverage on Bitcoin. Cypher up 72%, Stronghold 78%, Gree up 80%. All in all, this 11-week period is when Bitcoin really took off, broke out from its highs over the summer, and the Bitcoin miners really took off as well. Now I'm going to go in a little bit different order than I usually do. I want to take a look at the year in total. Okay, so this is the entire year. This is from start to finish. The last trading day of the year for these Bitcoin miners was December 29th, Friday, December 29th. So these are the final numbers. So at the bottom of this list, you're going to see we have the NASDAQ, which had a phenomenal year in purple, up 45%. But you can see Bitcoin really outperformed any asset class this year, up 154%. And you're going to see almost all of the Bitcoin miners outperformed Bitcoin. And again, a lot of these did accomplish their goal of being a 3x leverage, some significantly more than that. There were a few laggers. Let's just quickly talk. There's 4 of these Bitcoin miners that lagged behind the performance of Bitcoin itself. Gree was up 132%, Mawson up 132%, Eni was up 72%, and Stronghold was up 52%. So although all 19 Bitcoin miners that I follow did finish in the green for the year, 4 of them did lag the price of Bitcoin. And it's worth noting, while there are other Bitcoin miners out there, from a market cap standpoint, these 19 Bitcoin miners represent somewhere in the neighborhood of 99% of the total market cap of the industry of Bitcoin miners. So this is the vast majority of the Bitcoin mining universe that is publicly traded. Okay, so let's go to the top of this list. Core Scientific is a little bit of an outlier, and this is an unusual story. Core Scientific went into Chapter 11. This stock got all the way down to 4 cents. So, if you stuck with this, if you bought in at the bottom, this stock was up in 2023, 1,831%. It's off the charts. They will be coming out of Chapter 11 shortly. Originally they said maybe it was going to be by the end of the year. It looks like it's going to spill into 2024, but they're still targeting sometime very soon. So we're going to see what the stock does when it comes out of Chapter 11. I always caution everybody, we're getting more and more information as it pertains to what the details of this immersion from Chapter 11 is going to be, but you never know until it happens, and these can be extremely volatile events. So if you're up 1,800% on this or any amount in between, congratulations. So Core Scientific notwithstanding, Cypher was up 638% this year. So that is an absolutely fantastic performance. That is a 4x leverage on Bitcoin. So you're going to see by the end of the year, a lot of these Bitcoin miners did shape up and do what we expect them to do. A lot of retail investors got spooked this year. The year started out great. January, February, March were spectacular for Bitcoin miners and for Bitcoin. But things leveled off. There was a peak in July. All the Bitcoin miners hit a local high in the middle of July, somewhere around July 13th or July 14th. Then they went about 2.5 or 3 months going sideways or down. I do think this flushed out a lot of retail investors. Having said that, a lot of the people that watch this channel did stick with their Bitcoin miners, and a lot of them dollar cost averaged in through that very brutal period this summer. We tracked this week by week by week. There was about 14 or 15 weeks in the middle of the year where the Bitcoin miners absolutely got destroyed. Having said that, they've basically recovered from that, and you can see on a year-to-date basis, this performance is excellent. So I'll point out just a few more. Marathon, which is the largest by market cap, up 587%. Somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4x leverage on Bitcoin. So, Marathon had a spectacular year. Bitfarms up 561%. Iris Energy, which is aiming to be one of the larger market caps over the next year or two, they were up 472%. CleanSpark, which mined the second most Bitcoin out of all the publicly traded Bitcoin miners in 2023, they were up 441% this year. RIOT, which is now the second largest by market cap, it was the largest for the vast majority of the year, they were up 356%. So after RIOT, you're going to see a little bit of a drop-off. TeraWulf was up 261%. There were a bunch in that range that did outperform Bitcoin, but really not in the leveraged way that we would expect. So really from TeraWulf on down, these are stocks that I'm looking at that maybe didn't perform up to what we thought they would in this year. It could be company performance driven, or it could just be that the stock is lagging behind. All of these stocks are no longer moving in unison. There seems to be a rotation in and out, and a lot of the miners made their big move up over the last 11 weeks at different times. So as I always tell people, obviously this is not financial advice, but I like to provide all of these numbers so that you guys can look at these and see, is there any opportunity, is anything jumping off the page at you as a miner that you think's performing very well, that maybe the stock is not performing along with it so far, that maybe is due for a catch-up, or vice versa? Is there something out there that's maybe run too fast, too far, and might be due for a pullback? So this is the final chart of the year, so I would say take a screenshot of this or keep this in mind. This was a spectacular year for Bitcoin, up 154%, and really a phenomenal year for the Bitcoin miners, even though there was a massive amount of volatility, which leads me to something that I say in basically every video. The Bitcoin miners are leveraged play on a highly volatile asset, so you are going to get massive volatility. If you do not have the stomach for that, this is probably not the area for you to invest. But for those of you who did, for those of you who stuck with it, dollar cost average, had conviction in your stock, you can see there were big payoffs this year. The question is this run done? With these gigantic moves to the upside, is there more room left to go? So I'm going to show you a couple of charts that might give you some insight as to what the answer to that question is. Okay, the first one is a chart we've been looking at, for the last, this is now week 24. So this compares all the Bitcoin miners, which, as I mentioned earlier, all the Bitcoin miners had a local high somewhere around July 13th or July 14th. That was when Bitcoin had its high for the year, just under $38,000. You can see on this chart, Bitcoin and gold is now 39% above that. So it's taken out its summer highs by quite a bit. But you're going to see there's an awful lot of stocks that are still in the red versus their highs from this summer of 2023. With Bitcoin up 39%, there's still 8 stocks that haven't even gotten back to zero, and then 3 other stocks that are just basically about zero. So more than half of the Bitcoin miners, in my opinion, are still lagging from where they were versus their highs this summer. In fact, by the end of the year, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4 Bitcoin miners that outperformed Bitcoin essentially in the second half of the year. This is the last 24 weeks of the year. So Argo Blockchain, which is a small cap, that was up 81% in that 24-week period. Core Scientific up 61%. Again, they're in Chapter 11, so that's a little bit of an oddball situation. So really, the only 2 stocks, regular stocks of medium size or larger, CleanSpark, which is the 3rd largest by market cap, they were up 60% in this 24-week period, and Bitfarms was up 48% in this 20-week period. So both of those outperformed Bitcoin. The rest of the Bitcoin miners over the last 24 weeks underperformed Bitcoin. So to me, that's a signal that potentially there is room for some more of these to run. Now, I will say, as I've been saying for quite some time, almost all year in 2023, I do think there will be winners and losers. I don't think all of these stocks are going to go straight to the moon. So some of these stocks, in my opinion, are going to dramatically outperform others. So you do need to be careful. But this is another chart where I think if you look at this chart, you may find some opportunity inside of here, particularly with this list of stocks that's still in the red, not yet back to even their highs from this summer. And there are some big Bitcoin miners in here. Riot is the 2nd largest Bitcoin miner by market cap. They're still 19% away from where they were in the summer of 2023 when Bitcoin was trading at $38,000. Cypher is one of the largest by market cap. They're still down 16%. Okay, I want to show you one more chart. We have not looked at this in over a year, but I think it's time to look at this again. And I believe in 2024, we're going to keep a close eye on this next chart. Okay, you're going to see a massive sea of red on this chart. What this chart is, this compares the price of each one of the Bitcoin miners as of the last trading day of the year 2023 versus their highs from the previous bull market. So that was November of 2021. So for each one of these Bitcoin miners, I went and found their high within plus or minus 1 month of November when Bitcoin hit its all-time high in November of 2021. You're going to see some Bitcoin miners are not on this list because they were not yet publicly traded or didn't even exist at that point. So the ones that existed are on the list. So it's worth noting, Bitcoin is still 39% off of its all-time high. So we know it has not gotten back to its all-time high, which was roughly $69,000. And that, I believe, was on November 10th, 2021. The other thing I want to note is this is not away from their all-time high. Many of these companies actually were at higher numbers prior to November of 2021. I just strictly went from when Bitcoin hit its all-time high. I thought that was a more fair measure. But you're going to see, even from that point, I'm going to go to the bottom of this list, and then I'll work my way up. There are a lot of these companies down 95% or more. Stronghold is still down 98%. Just from its highs in November of 2021, and that was nowhere near their all-time high. Same thing for Gree. They're down 98% from their highs in November of 2021, and they were already down significantly from their high. Mawson is still down 97%. Eni is still down 95%. TeraWulf is still down 93%. So you can see these stocks could have monumental runs and still be nowhere near where they were at their all-time high in November of 2021. Now, before I finish on this chart, I will say you need to do your due diligence on these companies because several of these companies really had to reorganize their entire company. A lot of them had to give a lot of their Bitcoin mining machines back. Some of these companies are, in fact, smaller companies than they were in number of Bitcoin mining machines, number of exahash. You should know your company. However, there are other companies on this list that are deeply in the red that have grown significantly. Some of these companies are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times the size that they were back in November of 2021, yet they're off 60, 70, 80% from where they were trading at that time. This is a list I want to keep my eye on. We're here on the first day of the year in 2024, and in my opinion, I think despite the fact that this list is so incredibly red, I think there's going to be some green on this list by the end of the year, meaning I think several of the Bitcoin miners are going to take out their previous highs from the peak of the last Bitcoin bull market. So that being the case, depending on which Bitcoin miner it is, that leaves an awful lot of room to the upside. And by the way, that doesn't mean that's going to be their all-time high in this bull cycle. So I think this list is worth looking at. We're going to keep a close eye on this list. I'd like to see these inch closer and closer to green, and I think some point, maybe by this summer, we're going to start to see some of these turn green. But I would caution you again, I think some of these companies are in trouble. I do think there will be winners and losers. Some of these companies, particularly the ones that are down over 90%, some of these companies may not recover. Some of them may never get anywhere near their highs from the previous bull market, and some of them may really not even go up very much from here. In fact, some of these companies may not make it at all. So we do want to be very careful, do your due diligence, know the stocks that you're investing in. This is our new list for 2024. We're going to take a look at a lot of stuff. You're going to see a lot of videos coming out. There's an awful lot to talk about. I do think we're just getting going. 2023 was a fantastic year, so I want to say congratulations to everybody who stuck with the Bitcoin miners and with Bitcoin. You probably had a very good year in your portfolio. I believe there's more good things to come in 2024, but with that said, I will say I do believe, as has always been the case, it will be a bumpy road. Cryptocurrency is extremely volatile, and again, the Bitcoin miners are a leveraged play on these volatile assets. So enjoy the ride. Congratulations to everybody in 2023, and I'm looking forward to 2024. So thanks so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.